Hello, 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 come in, how are you? Now, as you can see, I am back in the Emerald Isle and I am no longer in Uzbekistan, but I have to tell you things about it because it was the most incredible journey, trip, visit, whatever you want to call it, of my life. Excuse me. I have never been anywhere like it, and I don't know really where to compare it to. And himself and myself were talking about it, and like it's post-Soviet, so like there's a lot of kind of very wide roads, and like the underground is lovely and all. And then it's quite Islamy, but sort of secular Islam, if you know what I mean. And that like some women are going around with their heads covered, but many aren't, and nobody minds. You know, nobody be shouting at you in the street and saying, "Cover yourself up, you floozy," and any of that sort of thing. And it's just so un-Western. Like almost nobody speaks English. Like they speak Russian or they speak Uzbeki-ness. And there were no brand names I recognised. Like there was no Starbucks and no McDonald's. And I mean, this is a blessing. And the food was queer, and it was just, but I have to tell you about one particular day, which was like one of the nicest days of my entire life. Me and him had the day off from seeing mosques and mausoleums and things. Like it's jammers with like these beautiful ancient-y buildings. But the thing is, I'm not really an ancient-y building sort of a person. I like to meet people and say, "Who are you? Tell me who you are and I'll tell you who I am." And then we can sort of know more about each other. So anyway, we went off. And we went on the underground and we couldn't figure it out. And we were there looking at the map like a pair of thicks. And then this woman in, is it a hijab? Where like the head is covered but the face is out. And she comes and she can speak a bit of English and she knows where we need to go. And she brings us upstairs and along a corridor and down an escalator and practically comes into the carriage and sits us down, you know? Like it was just lovely, but it gets better. So we went out and we went to the big scary food market, and it was really scary because there's all kinds of queer mate and stuff like that. But I bought some bread for 20p and it lasted me the whole day and it was really delicious. So we come back to the subway to come home, and we get onto a carriage and it's crowded, you know. So we get on like, and we're standing holding the bar like you do on the tube sort of a thing. And then this man who's also standing notices us and he starts shouting at two girls, yelling at two girls. And obviously we couldn't speak the language, but obviously I speak the international language of a parent shouting at you to get up. And he was basically, "Would you get up? Would you get the feck up and let the visitor sit down? You're making an absolute show of us all. Get up, get up." And they got up and there was 2 spare seats and we were mortified. We were going, look please, no, we're grand, no, we're grand. But then the whole carriage sort of got in and they were all like, "Sit down, for the love of God, you're the tourists, you're the visitors." And we had to sit down. And then we were so mortified that we missed our stop. But that turned into another adventure. Basically, every single person I met could not have been more lovely. In a really shocking way. You know, there was you see, they don't get many tourists, but you know the way you think if you don't get many tourists that you'd be pestering the ones that you got. The only people who ever said anything to us really were people trying to help us. And one day at the market, men were shouting at me and they were going, "Italia, Franca," and then I go, "No, Irlandia," and then be like, "Irlandia, yeah, right, I can see it now that you say it." And no brand names, as I said, crappy shops, like shocking bad shops, you know, like, which I also found kind of refreshing. And, you know, still a fairly repressive government, but miles better than it was. And it's just that their horizons are really east, you know, they're good pals with Korea, and China are investing loads. And they used to be pals with the US in the early days of the war on terror, and the most ignominious, horrific partnership. Excuse me. But I don't think they are anymore because you don't see any signs of it. So anyway, I was sick before I went, as you know. Maybe you don't. But I got sicker when I was there, even though I was taking the antibiotics. Excuse me. And I had to go to a chemist and act out my symptoms because, again, there's nobody speaking English. So I stood in front of the young man and I coughed on demand. And he was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm in over my head, lads. This is above my pay grade." So he had to go off and get a superior. And then I had to cough again. And then I wasn't able to stop. And then they gave me a cough bottle or something. But then I had the most awful pain in my head because I didn't know, but I had a sinus infection. So I was staggering around, clutching my skull, kind of like, you know, like your man in the Scream, you know. And they were so impressed with me that they gave me Solpadeine without asking, without doing the usual thing that the poor chemists have to do in Ireland. So anyway, we had to come home early, which is awful because we were due to go to Kyrgyzstan, which is a country next door, but we were going to be much more rural. Do you know, we were going to be staying in yurts and queer, funny guest houses, and we'd be miles and miles and miles from big cities and all. So we made it was really, really gutting to come home because it was such an adventure. And if you were thinking of going, come and talk to me about it and I'll give you tips. But basically I have never ever met such lovely people, ever, like ever. And I'm Irish, do you know, like Irish people are very nice. They'd help you. I mean, they wouldn't bring you upstairs and along a corridor and down an escalator and show you to your dart, like, but they'd point you, you know. Anyway, so other than that, so I've been back and I've been really sick. And I've been on another dose of antibiotics, which everybody tells me they're debilitating. So then I got the other thing, the probiotics. So hopefully that'll sort me out now. Excuse me. But I am shattered all the time. And before any of you say it, and you're so kind, I have had my bloods done recently. And apart from low iron, I'm grand. I think it's just the post-dad thing. You know, lots of people say that they're exhausted after a death. And I'm like this, and Katrina in New York is like that as well. And I'm just trying to go with it, you know, like radical acceptance, as it were, and to be kind to my body, as it were. And no matter how little I do in a day, at night time to thank my body, as it were. Now, I don't be into any of that now. That's not me at all. But the long and the short of it is basically, there's feck all I can do about this, except maybe just wait it out. And it's annoying because I have so many things I want to write. I have so many ideas and I wanted to write this big, long, I don't know, piece about all my adventures in Uzbekistan. It's mostly about the people I met. But there's so many lovely things to tell and I don't have the energy to do it because, excuse me, I'm still doing my edits. And my head is still quite foggy. Now, a lot of you might say that would be bowel menopause as well, and maybe it is. You know, and I'm not going to triumph. Do you know, I've tried plenty, and now I'm just going to be like, lower my expectations of myself. So, and things are still busy. We're off to that there England again next week. But today is Sunday, and after this, it's the afternoon. Oh my God, I love the weather. It's rainy, and apparently, well, the week is going to get very hot, which I am not fond of. But it will be very humid also, and there will be thunderstorms, which is very bad news for the potatoes. Apparently, potato blight might be imminent. I know this because himself watches the long culty weather forecast every Sunday. Hang on, I just have to ask him. What would we call it? The agricultural forecast. The farming, thank you. The farming forecast. So yeah, potato blight, not good. Not good at all because potatoes are lovely. And where would we be without potatoes? Oh, and I am on Instagram and I'm loving it. People are so nice. Nobody does be mean to you. Now, I know most of you on Twitter do not be mean to me. And I don't mean to be casting aspersions because you're not. But you know the way the odd time some feckhead bloke will decide to come in and mansplain me something. And that's
Sorry.
Not you. You don't do it. You're grand. Anyway, you do be terrified of me. He does, he's nodding. He wouldn't dare. But yeah, no, but Instagram is lovely because everybody is nice. And I feel like I need niceness at the moment. And Old Woman is great. We're going out for our dinner today, down to Dunloggery. And I'm just going to check with himself. Have I any news? He's shaking his head, I haven't. I hope you're well. I mean, I hope the weather improves for you. Like, you know, I hate the heat, but I don't want anyone else to be miserable. And I'll be in London next Monday. And I will do a little film from there. So thank you for all your delight in the pictures and the posts from Uzbekistan. It really was just indescribably lovely and interesting and strange and challenging and all the things that travel is supposed to be. And they had lovely cake. You know, that was an added bonus. I really wasn't expecting that. I'll be in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks.